So in my process of getting to know Devi better, I did some research, and then I included, I did some historic research, and so I just want to share that with you. And sometimes it can be really boring because it's just me reading, you know, semi-scholarly text. I mean, Namarupa fills a nice gap between, dissertations and commercial journalism. And so it's, scholarly references, and but at the same time, it's more accessible language. But this is the more kind of dense language part of it, with a lot of Sanskrit names you might never have heard of. So anyway, if you get a bit bored, just go on to the next video, pick up a sidebar, or just go to the pilgrimage, the experiential part of it, and that might be different experience for you. So anyway, Devi is the Sanskrit word for goddess, and means heavenly, divine, anything of excellence. The title Devi or Mata refers to the goddess as the divine mother in Hinduism. Devi has been known by 1,000 names that refer both to the absolute and like Mahadevi and Adi Parashakti, like the beginningless time. And then also to specific female deities like Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Parvati, Sati, Kali, to name a few. Every village in India has its own unique Brahma Devi. Some manifestations of Ma have 1,000 names each. Devi often appears with her male counterpart, Parvati with Shiva in Shaivism, Saraswati with Brahma in Brahmanism, and Lakshmi with Vishnu in Vaishnavism. In addition to the pantheon of individual goddesses, there are also groups of goddesses, like Matrikas, Navadurgas, and Mahavidyas. And sometimes there's 64 of them, sometimes 81. They tend to be tantric devis or yoginis, who are devotees and attendants of Durga. And there are many anthropomorphic goddesses who remind us to examine what is real and what is illusory. So goddesses come in all forms and sizes, from the fair-skinned and demure Gauri, with curvaceous hips and full breasts, to the ferocious, emaciated crone, Chamundi, who lives in the cremation grounds, with ghouls and predatory animals like jackals and vultures. Durga is the fierce warrioress who rode the lion into battle at the request of the male gods at a time of crisis. So it was time, very much like today, we're living in the coronavirus crisis. So Durga was summoned to help. And yes, the male gods asked her to slay the evil buffalo demon who is threatening to destroy the world. When things get bad, Kali Ma appears as the terrifying dark-skinned goddess with wild hair, blood-dripping fangs, a skirt of human arms, and a necklace of skulls. Her extended tongue sucking up the blood from the battlefield in an act of compassion. Each female deity is depicted either standing or seated on her special animal mount or vahana, that transports her through the various realms of consciousness. You can identify each goddess by her particular stance and mudras, which are, hand gestures. The same goddess can have a different number of arms. Durga is depicted in her 2-arm form or her 18-arm form or anything in between. Her various hands hold magical tools that are symbols to discern her identity and her powers. The more arms she has, the more powerful she becomes. Each manifestation of the goddess also comes with a mantra and a yantra. The proliferation of forms and names for Devi can be confusing. And I remind myself, not long into this process, to really keep it simple. All Hindu goddesses emanated from the forehead of Durga. So they're all Devi Durga. They're all manifestations of her, even if she has 108 different forms. And then there's the yoginis and dakinis, or sky dancers. So yogini and dakini cults emerged. They became popular in the tantric era in medieval India, which could be any time between 5th century to 12th century CE. And, Tantra was the main religion for 600 years in India. And anyway, it was around somewhere in that time zone, and they could have been a continuation of a group of goddesses known as matrikas, who appear as far back in earliest texts, such as the Mahabharata and some Puranas. And Hindu and Buddhist texts have mythologized yoginis, as frightening, untameable women with an uncontrollable sexuality. The opposite of the docile and respectful daughter, sister, or wife. So the yogini is the archetypal dangerous female other, associated with the darker or more wrathful manifestations of the goddess, expressed through extreme and unorthodox behavior and terrifying appearances, like wild, unkempt hair, an enigmatic smile, protruding fangs, and a third eye on the forehead all suggest danger. Yet she is the compassionate mother. Her naked body is draped in animal skins or adorned with bone ornaments. She's often garlanded with a mala of 7 severed human heads, holds a human skull for drinking blood, and wears a garland, a mala, of severed human heads. She wears an animal head that points to the shamanic roots of the tradition. Names like Pretavihini, corpse rider, Yamaduti, god of death's messenger, Bhyankari, fearsome one, Bhayankari, fearsome one, Narabojini, cannibal. Well, they reflect the ferociousness of the yogini and might explain why yoginis have always been feared throughout history. But who are these women described as crones, whores, bloodthirsty hags with a volatile sexual power that threaten the social order? Around the same time, in a different part of the world, their European sisters were persecuted and demonized as witches, burnt at the stake. Burnt at the stake by the Vatican. Perhaps this fear of yoginis reflects the cultural fears within Orthodox Hindu culture of female sexuality and power. A sexually liberated woman is often seen as threatening because she is not defined in relation to a man. Threatening because she's not defined in relation to a man. These female tantrikas are also considered to be in the Nat tradition of the Koala school of yoga under the tutelage of the mythic Bengali tantric Matchendranath. Here's a photo of Matchendranath, spectacular golden statue, and he overheard the Shiva's teachings on yoga that he was giving to his consort wife Parvati when Matchendranath here was in the belly of a fish. And Parvati at that moment had gotten bored and fell asleep, and Matchendranath heard the teachings, received the transmission, and was born, reborn, reincarnated as Shiva, but in human form on earth in this yuga. And so he is the one that created maybe one of the first tantric schools, the Koala, that was in the Nat tradition and under the tutelage of that mythic Bengali tantric, Matchendranath. In Nepal, he is known as Matchendranath. Although it's difficult to situate him in historic framework, scholars have placed his birth around the 8th century CE. In his important tantric treatise, Koala Jnana Nirnaya, Matchendranath treats yoginis with respect and devotion, believing them to possess the intrinsic force of Shakti and to be the embodiment of the siddhis, the sophisticated techniques to give empowered supernatural powers and transcendental states. The Koala Jnana Nirnaya describes the yogic path outlined by Shiva to his consort, and the teaching methodology is the form of a dialogue between Bhairav and the fierce form of Shiva and the Devi. And in some tantras, the Devi actually teaches Shiva as well. Mysterious tantric practices performed in secrecy navigate various realms of consciousness to determine what is real and what is a dream, going beyond this space-time continuum into more subtle realms between form and formlessness. Bliss. Magic acoustic formulas are uttered, opening up portals to summon the deity. The vibrational sound frequency of the mantra is the body of the deity. Ancient yantra designs are downloaded by sages and etched into the earth. Yoginis and dakinis appear in tantric sadhana as the mediators between realms of consciousness, helping to remove certain veils or grantis to prepare the physical and subtle body to receive kundalini or shakti energy. The subtle yogi body is the intersection between form and formless. Yoginis bring the formless into form. Dakinis bring the form back into formlessness. They conceal and reveal. Perhaps it's more mundane, and they simply help us to work with the afflicted emotions, to transform them back. Sorry. Into an unconditioned or unfabricated, liberated state of mind. The iconography of the Yogini temples helps us understand the blissful state of emptiness combined with desire. The erotic sculptures give rise to a refined sense of desire, the vibration that comes before thought. Ritual, invocation, and worship of deities are not something outside ourselves, but exist within, as part of consciousness. The journey of the practitioner is about unraveling, deconditioning ourselves to understand who we really are. Wrathful deities exist to scare us away from entering altered states until we're ready, and they demand we take off the layers of our own crustacean mind, conditioning passed down through generations, to clear our stain of perception and see through the veils of Maya, illusion, that prevent us from seeing our own true nature, pure vision. Devis from the Halabid temple outside of Mysore, carved into basalt. I actually think these are from Belur. Anyway, they're called Salabajanki, Salabanika, from the Salabhanjika, from the Hoysala era, 12th century, Belur, which is beside a halibut. And, stylized femininity, goddess holding the branch of a tree. Often goddesses are associated with vegetation, which we'll talk about. Okay, so I'm going to stop this one here and just see if it's recorded the whole way through.